Hello everyone. So today in this session of Approach to Anthropology, I welcome all of you. I am Dr. Sudhir Kumar, and in today's session I will give you a brief outview of research methods in anthropology, and then we will take one question, right? We will take experiential ethnography. Okay, so let me start with this research methods in anthropology. See, this portion of the syllabus is highly neglected, right? Not many of you give due importance to this chapter, research methods, right? You study few things which are available in, broadly in the notes, and the others you are neglecting moreover, right? See, there can be many questions that has been asked, and nowadays many new dimensions they are exploring. They are entering into philosophy, they are entering into linguistics, right? They are going into psychology, they are going into you can say sociology. In last 2 years, if you see this 2019 and 2020, they have asked two questions, right? One was on the relevance of phenomenology, right, in anthropological research, and this year 2020 they have asked experiential ethnography, right? You try to understand these concepts, but phenomenology is a very important research method in sociology, right? And all the sociology students, they understand this very well, but not anthropology, because anthropology students, they largely ignore the research methods, this chapter, right? This chapter contains few important dimensions. Let me first open it up, right, for you people. So, in this chapter we have field work in anthropology, right? See, field work is the very essence of anthropology. Without field work, there is no knowledge that is objectively and you can say authentically, or you can say holistically created, right? Entire database or knowledge of anthropology is based on the field work through participant observation, because with this approach we can develop authentic theories based on authentic data, right? Our data is qualitative data in comparison to the other social sciences or other disciplines. They rely on the secondary sources of quantitative data, right? So that is field work, and we trace the beginning of field work, right? You can say we trace from the times of L.H. Morgan informally, but L.H. Morgan, then we see that Baffin Land expedition by French Boas, then we see this Torres Strait expedition by Rivers, Seligman, Haddon, etc. And after these, you can say earlier attempts, the main beginning of field work started with the work of Malinowski, and then after that it became an essential part of anthropological research. After Malinowski, Pritchard, right, and all those Mayer Fortes, okay, all these people, they did field work, and now it became the essence of anthropology. So this is one chapter that you have to do. Then the other thing is methodology, method and techniques. Most of the techniques, their merits and demerits you have memorized. Methods like historical method, comparative method, scientific method, these you have memorized their uses and all, right? You know that methodology is the applied ideology, right? Method is a way of doing, and technique is the simplest way that is directly used in the field. It may be interview, it may be survey, it may be participant observation, it may be questionnaire, right? All such kind of techniques are there, right? And these techniques, or you can say they are the tools of data collection, right? And finally, there is a third part of this unit that we have the interpretation of the data that is collected, right? and there can be many ways. Nowadays that interpretation, or you can say analysis of the data or the presentation of the data, in that we can use artificial intelligence as well, right? The statistical tools we were using earlier, but now we can go into the artificial intelligence also. So these are the three broader areas from this portion, right, that we have to understand. You mainly focuses on these tools of data collection, techniques, etc., their merits and demerits. You ignore most of the part, right? Especially the newer techniques, for example, phenomenology, experiential ethnography, hermeneutics, right? This ethnomethodology, neo-ethnography, ethnosemantics, right? These newer approaches, or you can say interdisciplinary approaches, you are ignoring. Now, for that matter, I'm taking experiential ethnography in today's session, and I will explain that how you can write that answer in a very effective way. Okay, so experiential ethnography. Experiential ethnography. Okay, so it is, you can say, first you understand that what is it? Experience, right? Ethnography based on the experience. So this method, this technique is a combination of the two things. One is this experience, my experience, your experience, or whose experience, right? So basically, suppose I want to write an ethnography of any particular culture. I will go into that culture and I will try to feel in the same way as the inhabitants or the natives of that culture feel. That is the experience. Or basically we are trying to represent the experience of the people. See, ethnography, we say that Malinowski started ethnography, right? Writing. Even though there were ethnographies before him, but you can say he was the pioneer in this field, right? And his objective of ethnography or field work, right? This ethnography he was writing through field work. Okay, field work through participant observation. And what he says, the objective of field work and this ethnography is to get the natives' point of view, right? To understand the natives' point of view. See, काफी पानी बह गया जब से मालिनोव्स्की ने ये बातें की थी. कुछ लोगों ने मालिनोव्स्की और उसी टाइम पे जो भी डेवलपमेंट्स हुए थे उनको थोड़ा रिजेक्ट भी किया. See, for example, one such rejection is that Robert Redfield, he was also an ethnographer. He also performed this field work and participant observation, right? Robert Redfield, he did field work in Tepaztlan in Yucatan Peninsula, right? After that, Oscar Lewis also did. In the same village, Tepaztlan, both of them conducted field work on the same village, but the results were different, right? You can say their writings were different. So what happened here, that Malinowski says that through ethnography we can achieve the natives' point of view. Robert Redfield and Oscar Lewis study, it has diverging views about the people's behavior, right? About that same culture. So what do you say? Can you rely on ethnographies written by anthropologists? Don't you think there is a question mark on whatever is done by the anthropologist? And from here, a new field emerged in anthropology, that was new ethnography. New ethnography, you can say, it is the beginning of cognitive anthropology. Here the focus was on understanding the people's logic, people's worldview, how people perceive their world, their reality. That was the purpose of this new ethnography, and in this we see Harold Conklin and others. See what methods they have adopted. They have adopted this method of phenomenology, right? Ethnomethodology. Ethnomethodology means the people's logic. Ethnos means people, and methodology, my approach, my way of looking at things. So that is the people's way of looking at things, right? Ethnomethodology. How I perceive reality, you can say. Phenomenology is the study of the structures of experience, how I perceive this reality, right? The phenomena, right? How I see it, how I process it in my mind cognitively, right? That is the study of, or that is the phenomenology. So ethnomethodology, phenomenology, that was adopted here. Ethnosemantics, people's meaning of things, right? People's meaning of things, semantics. Okay, here you can say these combined together with ethnography becomes experiential ethnography, because it study the structures of experience, the experience of people, how people perceive reality. That is the focus here, right? So many of the people, they have, they understand that, and they limit experiential ethnography just to Malinowski. But I would say that don't restrict yourself, because ethnography as a field have grown, right? New ethnography, and not only here it is stopping, rather nowadays people started writing their own ethnographies, right? One such development is the writing of Marjorie Shostak, who have written on the Kung women, that is a book, Nisha, right? Nisha, the life and ethnographies, they are giving their own, you can say, viewpoint, right? Marjorie Shostak, she wrote that book, Nisha, and in that book she did not added anything other than whatever was uttered by this woman, Kung women, Nisha, right? So this is how we will see this, that is just, I was talking about the development. What is it, right? So in short, if I just want to define it, so experiential ethnography, what is it? Let me tell you. So first thing is, what is it? So define it. In simple sense, if I just want to define it mathematically, so it is the combination of phenomenology, right? It is the plus ethnography, and I would also take that ethnomethodology. Right? So phenomenology, ethnomethodology plus ethnography is experiential ethnography, right? Right? So it is the interdisciplinary approach of doing ethnography by combining phenomenology and ethnomethodology to understand the people's worldview, right, through their own experience of this world. That is what you can say, you can define experiential ethnography, right? This was influenced by the developments in other social sciences, for example, sociology, right? Because this phenomenology and psychology, right? Sociology and psychology. See, phenomenology that we have taken from psychology, right? That is the approach, that how people perceive the phenomena, okay, and ethnomethodology. Right? So psychological approaches, they have influenced it. Okay, it emerged, experiential ethnography, right? it emerged in 3 phases, right? You can say the development, if you want to see the ethnography, the development of ethnography, so that we can see it in the phases of development, right? Phases of development of this experiential ethnography is, the first was the participant observation and ethnography, you can say Malinowskian phase. Right? The first phase was Malinowskian phase, that no matter, you can say that emphasized on participant observation, we cannot deny that. And his approach was to understand the native's point of view, right? That ethnography was based on participant observation. Right? And what was the purpose? To understand the native's point of view. Right? The second phase, you can say the phase of new ethnography. And here we are truly going to this approach of experiential ethnography, because what Harold Conklin did, that he observed, he studied Hanunu people of Philippines. Harold Conklin studied the Hanunu people, and what he found, that Hanunu people perceive the color differently from the English speakers, right? See, suppose this is the green color, just consider it, right? मान लो इसको. So we say that this is green based on its chroma, its brilliance, its hue, right? But Hanunu people see this color as green or brown on the basis of wetness and dryness, right? So if it is wet, then it is green for them, and if it is dry, then it is brown for them, right? The color, the hue, the brilliance, it doesn't matter for them, right? So the way we perceive the same reality and the way Hanunu people perceive the reality, it is different, right? So we have to understand from the structures of their experience, right, how they see the disease. We can say, some people say that in today's, say, allopathy says that disease is caused by either genetic defects, gene expression, or it can be caused by some causative agent, right? But some people perceive, like Malair Paharia says, that disease is caused by the you can say गोसाइन की नाराजगी के कारण होता है, right? So how it is that, right? They experience things differently, we experience things differently, right? And the purpose of this is to go to their structures of experience. It incorporate phenomenology, ethnomethodology with participant observation. So here participant observation plus phenomenology plus ethnomethodology was used, and it is truly the experience based ethnography, that is experiential ethnography, right? And here we don't just try to understand the people's viewpoint, but we just look at the people's logic, right? People's way of looking at things, people's experience, right? So the structures of experience of the people we try to understand. And you can say this is truly the field of this experiential ethnography. After that, there was the development of this, the people started writing, people started, talking about themselves. They started uttering their, what they feel, they start telling to the people, right? So that is the third phase, where you can say the people's, you can say, here Marjorie Shostak, and there are many others. Now people started representing themselves. She did that. What people tell about themselves, right? You can say, if I say that what is my reality, how I perceive this world, right? How is my marital life? How is, what kind of family I have? all right, what kind of economic or subsistence habits I have, what kind of political beliefs I have. So if I started uttering myself, you can say one villager, one tribal, just start talking about them. So Marjorie Shostak took the note of Nisha women, that Kung women, and that was represented here. So that is the third phase, right? These are the phases of development. This emerged in reaction against the traditional ethnography, or you can say Malinowskian tradition, you can simply say, right? Because you can just give the case study of that Robert Redfield and Oscar Lewis, right? Both studied that Tepaz Tolan, right? That village, both of them studied, but they have contradictory results, right? Contradictory findings. So can you believe on ethnography? Right? That was the purpose that this nav ethnography or the experience based ethnography emerged. Now, what is the scope? We have seen these three headings. So definition, influences, phases of development, then reaction against ethnography, right? Finally, we can go on the where all this experiential ethnography is used in anthropology, right? So we can just start with the you can say development of this approach in anthropological theories, right? So through theories we are just looking. So which theories use this, right? Say culture personality school, right? After Malinowski, culture personality school, it used this method to understand how people perceived reality, right? People's cognitive aspects were being studied here, right? People's structures of experience were being studied here, right? Various methods were used by all the scholars, like especially Cora Du Bois used the cognitive approach, right? Then we see the structuralism, right? They also try to use some form of it, right? Symbolic anthropology, symbolic and interpretative anthropology use this, Geertz and Turner, right? Then this cognitive is naturally there, and finally postmodernism also. See, all these approaches, these theories, they have used this approach of experiential ethnography, right? Okay, then what are the methods used? Right? So you can say this approach, the uses, or you can say in anthropology where it was used. And finally, what we say, the methods used here. What methods you will use while using this approach, or you can say, I can say the techniques used in a better way. So the techniques you can use, simply interview is the most important approach, right? Participant observation is one, right? Not only this, rather you can use this life history or biographies of the people you can take, because in life history or in biography the people will narrate their own perspective, and that is why this experiential ethnography is all about, right? Their point of view, their logics. It may be sometime, right, if you see from the cultural materialistic perspective, from the perspective of Marvin Harris, who says that ethic method is more important. So you can simply say that it is more deeper and emic, right? It is truly emic perspective. Okay, so this interview, participant observation, life history, biographies of the people, right? That can be the techniques that they can be used here, right? So next is techniques. And finally, what is the significance of it? So significance of experiential ethnography can be this holistic description of a culture from experience of it, right? Description from experience. Holistic description of any culture from experience of it. कैसे वो experience किया जाता है? Various cultural traits, they are used here, right? It is truly amic perspective, you can say, right? And it naturally can be used in theory building, making generalizations about the people, their behavior, right? Now, basically, this is the significance. Do we have some limitations about it also? That also let us see. See, when I say you are going for the experience of the people, right? If you are going for what people perceive, what people feel, right? So what materialists say, Marvin Harris, that amic perspective can be misleading, right? And he gave examples also. So according to Harris or cultural materialists, right? It can be misleading, amic perspective can be misleading, and it may not help us to build scientific theories, right? So amic perspective can be misleading. Right? Okay. Now, basically, we have seen this question and various aspects of it. Definition, right? Then you can say influences. It is influenced from other disciplines like psychology, right? And philosophy and sociology. Then phases of development. Right? So, point 1, point 2, point 3, 4, it is the reaction against ethnography. You can use this Robert Redfield and Oscar Lewis. So, it was reaction against that, and it was emerged in reaction to that. Then 5th, theoretical use. This approach was used in many theories. Then you can talk about the techniques. Then you can talk about the significance. Then you can talk about limitations. And finally, conclusion. Right? And if you can answer this many dimensions in this question, I can assure that your score out of 10 will be at least 7. Right? If you can address these dimensions of this question, right, and in such a way, right, you show the clarity to the examiner. Yes, I agree that many of the students who have written 2020, they did not study it and they did not feel it, so they try to write whatever Malinowski says. It was nothing wrong at that point of time because you may not be knowing it, but now if you know, I expect from you that you can go for this approach, right? And in this way, I will also tell that how any approach, any theory, and any method can be used and how you can write various aspects of it, right? In the classroom program, I will tell you about all of these things, right? The way of writing answer, I will give assignment on a daily basis also, so that your practice keep on going from the very first day, right? Just at the end of the class, in our classes, you will be exam ready because you have written so many answers within the class itself that nothing will be left for future, right? So this is it for today. Experiential ethnography. I believe you like it, right? And you got clarity over this topic. Thank you. All the best and happy Dhanteras, right? Thank you.